host Jemmy. Today's show is absolutely packed with breaking stories that are reshaping markets in real time. The United States have taken full control of Venezuela, and that single move could change global oil prices, energy politics, and even Bitcoin's long-term supply story. We'll break down what it means for oil, what it means for China, and why crypto investors should be paying close attention. We'll also dive deep into Bitcoin technicals, look at escalating protests in Iran, unpack why money is quietly flowing out of South Korea's crypto market, and cover Ethereum's latest surge. Plus, Tom Lee is back with another bold move that has investors talking. So there's a lot to unpack here. Let's not waste any time. And we will start with the Bitcoin chart and starting with the daily chart of Bitcoin because Bitcoin is usually very sensitive to news like this and to macro situation like this. So on the daily chart, there are good things and bad things I'm seeing. So I will start with the good things. So on the daily, so on the shorter time frame, I have drawn this downtrend ever since 6th of October. So the reason why I'm watching this level so closely is basically whenever we get close, Bitcoin will just get rejected at these key levels. However, one thing very interesting, starting from late December, we have daily candles actually breaking above this downtrend that we've been building for more than 2 months essentially. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 daily candles actually above this downtrend. So this is one good sign that I'm seeing from the daily shorter time frame. However, that being said, we are not out of the wood, and I'm not being a permanent bear here, so please bear with me. Despite us breaking a downward trend, I will still say we are in a bear market and looks like this is just another relief rally that I have been predicting ever since like a month and a half ago. The reason why it looks like, okay, this is a downtrend, and right now we are in a relief rally before moving to the third stage of a bear market. And this could really last till February. And that being said, if we zoom out, this sort of looked like just a consolidation period. So from a technical standpoint, the reason why I am not flipping bullish anytime soon and watching my content, my viewers know that I don't like to switch back and forth on my stance on the market. And so far, I'm standing quite strongly on that we are still being in a bear market, and this is a relief rally. The reason why is that zooming out from a technical standpoint, 108K, technically speaking, anything below that is still a bear market. So this aligns very perfectly with the consolidation period I predicted more than a month ago. And right now we're just doing just that. It is great that on the daily time frame, Bitcoin broke out of this downtrend. So if you guys haven't the risk, this is a great opportunity. But that being said, it doesn't change anything from a general perspective. So this relief rally, it might last till February. The reason why I keep saying February on the daily, we're gonna shed more light on that because like altcoin so far, it has been really pumping quite hard as well. Well, on a second second chance, let's actually hop on to the total 3 market cap before getting into the weekly chart of Bitcoin, because altcoins are doing something very interesting. On the daily time frame, altcoins right now sitting at $888 billion. So it has been on a rally, and people on Twitter are calling for a final alt season because Bitcoin did not top on euphoria, and a lot of regions out there are hoping that at least this cycle will end up seeing that alt season we've been longing for. 2 years, essentially. So for the past few days, so past 5 days, the price action from altcoin market, it was pretty good. So it was an 8% pump, and some of the altcoins, of course, did rather well. Some maybe still waiting for that rally. But from a technical standpoint, anything, let's bring up the horizontal line yet again. So anything below $938 billion, this is still a bear market for altcoins. And if you have been catching my analysis for quite some time, you know that I am still really bearish on the general altcoins market. And the reason why I would say this, okay, overall, if we zoom out, this is still a downtrend. It's a down only. And the reason why we get this pump, and I'm not turning bullish anytime soon, is if we hop onto the weekly, what you notice is that essentially we're just like bouncing off at the essential level from altcoin. So here, of course, the blue line is the 50-week moving average. And altcoins right now is trying to get closer to the 50-week, which is a key resistance. And right now is sitting at roughly $920 billion. So if we end up going to 50-week and then get rejected again, altcoins, I do think there is more room for altcoins to bleed than there is for altcoins to pump. So that's why I'm not calling for alt season. And my own strategy, of course, not financial advice, but my own strategy is I'm shorting a bunch of altcoins. And even though from a TA perspective, I do expect that this rally going to last till February, there are a few trades you can pull if you guys are into trading around like I do. So let's go back to Bitcoin weekly chart and looking at the higher time frame right now. The reason why I keep saying February is maybe the relief rally that we're seeing right now going to last till February is because of the Ichimoku cloud. The Ichimoku cloud is a leading indicator. And one thing that is really bearish that I saw is that the Span B is taking over Span A. This is again a really bearish momentum that I'm seeing. So despite there might be a little pump, I still think there are a few weeks we're going to spend inside this cloud, because that's what happened. If we go back to the previous cycle, we spend essentially 3 months inside this Ichimoku cloud before breaking and losing that Span B support. And if we apply the same metric, so if we apply 3 months, something around 3 months, maybe 100 days. So if we stretch that out, we'll get essentially mid-February. So in other words, for the coming weeks, I won't be surprised if Bitcoin even pump up to 100K, because like based on this Ichimoku cloud, it could go to as high as 104K. And so basically Span A and Span B, the difference is like around 87K to 104K. So this is a pretty wild range, but technically speaking, if we're still trading inside this level, there isn't much conviction for me to turn bullish. And yeah, I know the controversy of Bitcoin 4-year cycle, it trigger a lot of people, but like most of the traders that I talk to, okay, maybe we don't agree on the 4-year cycle. I have a different perspective to other traders because each trader have their own strategy and it does not work for everyone. So I'm a strong believer for the 4-year cycle being intact, while others, they strongly disagree because we didn't see such a euphoric stage that we saw in any previous cycles. That being said, most of the traders, they would agree that if we have the 50-week moving average, if we close 2 weekly candles close below that, we will likely go to the 200-week moving average. So right now sitting at $57,000, so 57.4K. I'm not saying that Bitcoin would crash tomorrow or this week down to 57K. That's not what I said. I think more likely or not, we're going to follow similar pattern. Like again, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. So following the previous cycles, we'll stay inside the Ichimoku cloud for roughly 100 days. We'll call it 3 months before having another leg down. So this pattern, it looks very similar to just a dead cat bounce and relief rally before slowly heading straight to this 200-week moving average. Of course, like 200-week is smoothing out, so it will slowly catch up. So by the time we catch up and maybe we'll see a cycle bottom, if you are a believer of the 4-year cycle, then you believe the cycle bottom would happen in October 2026. But again, I'm flexible. If there's any data change according to the chart, then right now the Ichimoku cloud flip on in June 2026. So like at least Q3, I'm not turning any bullish anytime soon. But looking at TA, I always draw this comparison. It's like playing poker. Like as you get new cards, your probability change. So TA is just like presenting different possibilities and also the most likely outcome, so you can draw to your own conclusion. Let's also hop onto the 2 weeks chart and slightly build up that time frame. Let's close the Ichimoku cloud for now. And for the 2 weeks chart, the reason why we managed to call a right now is a bear market, but it tends to trigger people. But from my personal perspective, this is a bear market. So the reason why we managed to call this so perfectly is because if we bring out the RSI, it has been building up this RSI bearish divergence for months. So ever since February 2024. And since the RSI is going down, however, the price of Bitcoin, it was going up. So there was a divergence going on. One good news about the 2-week Bitcoin chart is that we managed to find support at the 50 MA, so 50 moving average right here. So 50 moving average is sitting at around $87,000, and we managed to close above that. This is good news, but it also validates my assumption that this is a consolidation period, and this just happened to be a relief rally before a third stage of the bear market, because it looks awfully similar to the previous pattern where we have the cycle top. Of course, the cycle top being 126K, we have a leg down and then relief rally before going back and for further pain ahead of us. So at least this is what I saw from the daily, weekly, and 2-week chart. And altcoins, as I mentioned, looks like there's still pain ahead of altcoins. But like, again, the level I'm watching is $935 billion. If we manage to close above that, then maybe I'll switch my perspective. But overall, we're still in a technical bear market, and I'm not calling for an alt season. All right, so what we're going to do is to take a little break, and after the ad break, we're going to look at Venezuela and also the US situation. So stay with us.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxum, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxum, rock-solid markets.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick, monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Welcome back to Roxum TV. Let's talk about what just happened between the US and Venezuela, because it just rewrote the entire oil and energy sector in the global market, and US just further secured its role as the global leader and gave a huge slap to China's face. So what happened on 3rd of January, just 3 days ago? The US launched a major military operation in Caracas, so in Venezuela. The operation removed President Maduro from power. Maduro and his wife were captured and sent to the US. The US says it was just over some drug trafficking and narco-terrorism charges. The operation caused damage inside Caracas and on the Venezuelan side. The US said there were no American losses whatsoever. The day after, President Trump spoke on Air Force and made something very clear. He said that Venezuela stole our oil and we are going to take our oil back. So what does that mean in simple terms? The US plans to control Venezuela's oil sector for now. US companies like Chevron and Exxon are expected to invest billions, and oil revenue will help pay for the operation and stabilize the country. Why does Venezuela matter so much? Because Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the whole world, even more than Saudi Arabia. So here's a chart of how much oil reserves in a global schemes of things. So the first one is Venezuela. The second country is Saudi Arabia, and then Iran and Canada. So this move from the US is definitely very controversial, and questions are asking if this is legal. Russia and China and some UN members say what the US did is illegal. They call it a violation of national sovereignty. But the US, how they responded is that, okay, US, it was just self-defending, and Venezuela was labeled as a narco state. The US compares this to past actions like Panama in 1989. This shows a shift toward power first and rules come later politics. So as of who control the oil for now, the US has placed Venezuela under a military quarantine. The state oil company, PDVSA, is also under US oversight, and a temporary governing council is being formed. But here's the reality. Venezuela's oil system is broken. It needs more than $100 billion and 5 to 10 years to recover. Production today is under 1 million barrels per day. It used to be over 3 million barrels. So that would not change overnight. But perhaps the bigger losers of this war right here is China and Russia. Both China and Russia, they have so much to lose because China invested $60 to $100 billion in Venezuela, and Russia invested around $17 billion. Many of those deals may never be repaid. And not to mention, China already gets 5% of its oil from Venezuela. Replacing that oil will cost more. This is a strategic loss for both Beijing and Moscow. So what's happening inside Venezuela? Inside the country, reactions are mixed. Like some people are scared, some feel really hopeful, and not to mention the Venezuelan currency just hit new lows, and poverty inside the country still way above 90%. Even with the world's biggest oil reserves, Venezuela collapsed because of corruption, because of bad management, because of sanctions by the US. So oil wealth never really reached ordinary people inside Venezuela. And one really common question when investors are comparing Venezuelan oil and Saudi Arabia oil, and this is the part that gets interesting because they have different texture, like different types of crude oil. Venezuela's oil is much heavier. So if we look at the bottle, it looks more similar to the bottles on the left side compared to the right side. So in other words, is heavy oil is raw material. Like Venezuelan's oil is heavier and more expensive. It costs more money per barrel just to process it because it's so heavy. But in comparison to other UAE's oil or Saudi Arabia's oil, the oil that they have is a little bit lighter, so it's cheaper and easier to process. It costs around $2 to $6 per barrel just to process it. So even Venezuela has more oil on paper, it's much harder to profit from it. So in other words, what happens now that the US controls the entire, well, almost the entire supply when it comes to the oil market? Medium term, of course, the oil price is going to come crashing, and this is an immediate reaction. And this is natural gas feature that we are looking at. As we could see, this is just a chart that will just continue to crash. This is because more oil could come back online, and now US controls the entire oil supply in the world. That actually pushes price lower, which would justify further rate cuts from the Fed, which is what Donald Trump has been longing for, and he has been very vocal about it. And as for my personal take on Donald Trump, because his move is very controversial, but my personal take, what really stands out here is that this move was unexpected and very controversial, but this was actually very strategic. Donald Trump did not just remove a hostile government, he secured control over one of the world's largest oil supplies at a time when energy has become a key weapon. The US is facing an energy battle at home, and cheap, stable oil is now critical, not just for fuel, but for powering data centers and AI development. This gives the US a stronger position in the global tech and AI race. At the same time, this move sends a clear message to China. China's economy is already under pressure, and it relies heavily on oil from Russia, from Iran, and Venezuela. By taking Venezuela out of that equation, the US cuts off a major energy source and wipes out billions of dollars of Chinese investment. And politically, Donald Trump now positions himself as the leader who saved Venezuelans from a long running dictatorship. Whether people agree with the method or not, this looks less like chaos, but more like a calculated business and power move with global consequences. And this is just one powerful man we are talking about. And other news that we cannot ignore is, of course, Starlink being another, I would say, maybe more powerful than Donald Trump, or maybe just as equal as Donald Trump. So, of course, Elon Musk. So, after the operation from the US, internet and power went down in parts of Caracas. Elon Musk Starlink just announced there will be free internet access for Venezuela from now until February the 3rd, 2026. This helps people stay connected, but it also a smart long-term move because Starlink often enters countries during crisis and just stay there after. And as for the Bitcoin perspective, why us Bitcoin investors would be interested in knowing news like this and why we are adding so much geopolitics in our analysis these days? There is a shocking claim in the Venezuela situation. Venezuela may secretly control over 600,000 BTC, worth around $60 to $67 billion. This BTC was allegedly accumulated quietly over several years through gold swaps, oil sales settled in crypto, and ceased domestic mining operations, mainly to avoid US sanctions and dollar-based systems. If true, this would make Venezuela one of the largest Bitcoin holders in the world, on the same level as, or even larger than major institutions. So this matter because 600,000 BTC is roughly 3% of BTC circulating supply, and that's massive. If these coins are frozen, seized, or locked in legal disputes, they effectively disappear from the market, creating a supply shock that could support higher Bitcoin prices over time. The US now has three options essentially. The first is freeze that Bitcoin or add it to the US strategic Bitcoin reserve. Or the third option, to sell it, though selling is seen as unlikely. In the most likely scenarios, this Bitcoin stays off market for years, which is structurally bullish for Bitcoin. For investors, Venezuela's situation isn't just geopolitics, it's a potential supply shock event that could reshape Bitcoin's market dynamics in 2026 and way beyond. Let's take a little break right now, and after that, we are diving right into the Iran situation, so stay with us.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin. No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxum, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxum, rock-solid markets.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick. Monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about what's happening in Iran, because this situation is getting more serious, and it connects directly to what we just saw in Venezuela. Over the past week, large protests have broken out across the country. What began as anger over the economy has now turned into something much bigger and much more dangerous for the Iranian government. The first protest started on 28th of December. Shop owners and workers came out because life has simply become too expensive. Inflation is running close to 40%. The Iranian currency keeps falling, and grocery costs more every single week. New taxes just made things even worse for local citizens. At the beginning, this wasn't political. It was more about survival. But once the protests began, they spread out fast across the countries. Within days, demonstrations spread out to over 100 locations, across more than 20 provinces. Major cities and poorer regions joined in. Students, workers, and ordinary citizens all took part. And this is where the tone shifted. People stopped talking only about prices and taxes. Chants turned openly into anti-government, with calls for change and anger directed at the Iran's top leadership, and even shouting death to dictator on streets. As the crowd grew, so did the response from security forces. Clashes have turned deadly. Reports confirm that at least 20 people have been killed, with many injured or arrested. In some cases, funerals for protesters became new protests themselves. The government has tried to slow things down by closing businesses, limiting movement, and restricting the internet, basically the tactics Iranians have seen before. Fear is spreading, but so is anger. The Iran supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, spoke earlier this month. He admitted that people are suffering economically, but warned that protests crossing certain lines would not be tolerated. Officials continue to blame foreign enemies, especially the US and Israel, while promising economic fixes that many citizens no longer believe. So, what makes this moment so special is the timing-wise. Just days earlier, the US carried out a dramatic operation in Venezuela, removing its leadership and taking control of key assets. For Iran, that action sent a very clear signal. If a sanctioned country collapses internally, the US may just step in directly. Iran's economy already looks disturbingly similar to Venezuela's before the collapse. So high inflation, sanctions, poverty, and an oil-rich country where citizens see none of the wealth. That's why many analysts say Iran is now walking on a very thin line. So why does Iran matter so much? Let's go back to the charts that I was showing earlier. So Iran is actually sitting at number 3 in terms of the global oil reserves. So Iran isn't just any country. It holds one of the world's largest oil reserves and sit near some of the most important energy routes on the planet. China relies heavily on Iranian oil, especially as it already buys from Russia and Iran under sanctions. If Iran becomes unstable or even loses control of its energy exports, that creates real problems for Beijing at a time when China's economy is already slowing down. This turns Iran's internal unrest into a global issue. So, what's happening in Iran started with cost of living, but is no longer just an economic story. This is now about power, about pressure and survival. After Venezuela, the stakes feel higher. The Iranian government must decide how far it's willing to go to stay in control, knowing that every move is being watched not just by its people, but by the world. And depending on what happens next, the consequence could stretch far beyond Iran's borders. We're going to take a short break right now, and after that, we are diving right into the Asian market and South Korea's capital control and why so much money is leaving the country. So stay with us.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
In a world far away. Nah, just kidding. This story begins in this world. It all started in 1460 in Antwerp, when the first commodities exchange was created, but the real transformation came in 1602, when the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was founded. Considered the oldest in the world, it was the first to trade financial assets. Over the years, Britain expanded its colonial and maritime influence, and the British pound sterling overtook the Dutch guilder in the market. Thus, the London Stock Exchange became the financial centre of the world. The 20th century came, and the world got into some trouble. But shortly after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, and the centre of the planet moved to Wall Street. Today, we're travelling at the speed of light towards a new age, an era shaped by the consolidation of Bitcoin as the currency that will define the future of the markets. We present Roxum, a new Bitcoin-denominated market that allows trading all sorts of securities, commodities, derivatives, options, and anything you can imagine. Roxum, rock-solid markets.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick. Monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
The break, we are turning our focus to South Korea, where a quiet but important shift is happening behind the scenes. A massive amount of money is flowing out of the country, especially through crypto markets, and is raising big questions about capital controls, regulation, and where investors are choosing to move the money to. So let's break it down what's going on, what's happening, and why it matters. South Korea is a very advanced economy, but it has never fully allowed money to move freely in and out of the country. The government still keeps close control over capital flows, and that history matters for what we are seeing today. So a quick background check, why Korea controls the money. So South Korea's capital controls actually go way back decades ago. After the Korean War, the government tightly controlled money to protect the local currency, prevent speculation, and push savings into building factories and exports. For many years, people could not freely move large amounts of money overseas. This helped Korea grow fast, but it also meant the government stayed deeply involved in finance. The 1997 Asian financial crisis was a turning point. Korea opened up more, joined the OECD, and slowly liberalized its market, but it never fully let go of control. Even today, the government still monitors large money transfers very closely. So, how the system works today is actually under current rules of foreign companies can invest freely in Korea. Trade payments are mostly open, but money going out is watched very carefully. Individuals can send up to $50,000 a year overseas without special approval. Anything above that must be reported to the central bank and tax authorities. Crypto is even more tightly controlled. Exchanges must follow strict AML rules. Real name bank accounts are required. Cross-border crypto transfers are tracked under the travel rule. So the goal here is quite simple, is to stop capital flight. And in 2025, South Korean investors moved more than 160 trillion won, which is worth around 110 billion US dollars from local crypto exchanges to foreign platforms. And of course, that is a huge number. Most of this money went to overseas exchanges that offer things Korean exchanges do not. So, why are Koreans moving money out? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is a key question, and the answer is not just distrust. Local Korean exchanges are very restricted. They only offer spot trading, there is no futures, no leverage, there are fewer tokens that local Korean people can trade. Meanwhile, foreign exchanges offer features and options trading, they have leverage trading, and there are more tokens to be traded. So, when global crypto markets rally, Korean traders wanted access and they wouldn't get it at home. That's why this pushed money offshore. So, what's happening right now? Is it illegal? Well, not necessarily, but it's heavily regulated. Moving money out of Korea is legal, but if it's reported properly. It becomes illegal when people hide transfers, split transactions to avoid limit, or use underground FX networks. The government has cracked down hard on this in the past, especially on illegal crypto FX trades. So far, most of the recent outflows appear to be legal, just frustrating for regulators. So, there's a common question that outsiders are asking. Do Koreans people actually trust their own government? Otherwise, why are they moving money out of the country? Well, the trust is mixed, I would say. Many Koreans support rules that stop fraud and money laundering, but trust in financial regulators has been slowly declining, especially among younger people. Young traders feel local rules are too strict, innovation is blocked, opportunities actually exist overseas. So this is less about fear and more about chasing better returns. And as for South Korea, they have one of the most active retail crypto markets in the world. There are around 10 million users, there's huge trading volumes and a strong DJ mentality in South Korea. When a token lists on a Korean exchange, prices often explode, then slowly collapse. Many projects pump fast and die very slowly. This cycle pushes traders to look elsewhere. That's why they use other crypto exchanges. So the final take is South Korea is not losing money because people don't trust the country. It is losing money because rules are too tight. Global markets are open and crypto moves faster than regulation. The government wants stability, traders want opportunity. So that tension explains why so much capital is quietly flowing out of Korea and why this issue isn't going anytime soon. So, We've just talked about South Korea, where straight rules are pushing money quietly out of the country into global markets. Now, let's actually shift gears into look at some of that money maybe going into companies that are turning crypto into a corporate treasury strategy. One of the biggest examples right now is none other than BitMine. And none other than BitMine, where Tom Lee is making a very bold bet on Ethereum. So Tom Lee, the chairman of BitMine Immersion Technologies, ticker symbol BMNR, sent a public message to shareholders with a very clear request. He wants them to vote yes on a proposal to massively increase the numbers of shares the company is allowed to issue. Right now, BitMine is allowed to issue up to 500 million shares. The proposal is to increase that limit to 50 billion shares, and that's a 100x increase. Shareholders have until January 14th to vote. An important point is that this vote does not create new shares immediately. It just gives the company permission to issue more shares later if needed. So what does that mean for shareholders? To break it down simply, this is where dilution comes in. Imagine a pizza. Today, the pizza is cut into 500 million slices. After approval, BitMine can cut it into many more slices. If new shares are issued, each existing share becomes a smaller piece of the company, and that's the risk. So why does Tom Lee want this? Tom Lee says this gives BitMine flexibility. He says the company may need to raise more money easily to buy ETH, do some deals and acquisitions, or split the stock if price gets too high. And this all ties back to his core belief that Ethereum is the future of finance, especially for things like tokenized assets and smart contracts. So how did the market react? I'm glad you asked again. So BMNR actually reacted very positively. It jumped about 14% overnight. So clearly some investors like what they heard because it's aligned with the ETH bull theory. But of course, there are some people who are worried about the risk here. Some concerns include too much dilution hurting current shareholders. BitMine become very concentrated in ETH because if we go to the ranking list, BitMine sitting at number 1, that makes other competitors really difficult to catch up because BitMine already holds 4 million Ethereum on the balance sheet. The second one is Shoplink, and they only, well, not only, but in comparison, they only hold 663,000 Ethereum. And BitMine right now is 67% to the target, and what they want is to hold 5% of the entire ETH supply out there. So in late 2025, when ETH dropped, BitMine recorded billions in unrealized losses on paper. So this is a high-risk, high-conviction strategy. For ETH bulls out there, they will like this very much, but a lot of people will find that too risky. So question, why BitMine is doing this? So is BitMine in trouble? Why they are selling so many shares? That being said, right now, BitMine is not in immediate distress. It has around $1 billion in cash. There is no major debt issues reported, and ongoing operations and ETH staking for that yield, that reward. But everything depends on one thing: Ethereum's long-term price and adoption. This vote today, this is not about today. It's about optional future power. Tom Lee is asking shareholders to trust his vision that Ethereum will rise over the long run, and BitMine needs the tools to move fast when that happens. If ETH performs, the strategy looks smart. If ETH struggles, dilution becomes a real concern. So this is a bold bet, and shareholders now have to decide whether they are willing to back it up. Okay, let's move on to how Bitcoin is doing, some Bitcoin related news that I've prepared for you guys. So looking at the headline, Walmart to accept Bitcoin at the checkout. That headline is everywhere right now. And if it were true in the simple way people think, it would be huge. The world's largest retailer, serving over 150 million customers a week, suddenly going all in crypto, that would change everything. But the reality is a bit different and honestly more realistic. What Walmart is actually doing is not accepting Bitcoin directly at checkout. You are not paying for groceries with a crypto wallet. Instead, Walmart's financial app called unpack lets users buy and sell Bitcoin and Ethereum inside the app. When you want to spend, your crypto is first converted into US dollars, and that cash is what you use to pay at Walmart. So it's crypto, and then you turn it into cash, and then you check out. Walmart never holds the Bitcoin. They never touch the blockchain. So why is this post going so viral right now? This feature is actually not brand new. It quietly rolled out in October 2025. The reason it's trending again is because an old CNBC clip started circulating on social media, making it sound like a fresh announcement that created confusion and a lot of hype in the market. Nothing new was launched this month, but the direction still matters. Why Walmart chose this model instead? Actually, this setup is very intentional. By converting crypto into cash first, Walmart could actually avoid price swings, regulatory headaches, holding crypto on its balance sheet, and at the same time, users still get exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum in a simple way. This is a low-risk, high-reach strategy. So Walmart, this matters for adoption because it serves millions of underbanked American people who don't use traditional banks or investment apps. For many of them, OnePay could be the first exposure to crypto. No wallets involved, no exchanges, no technical steps, just an app they already trust. So the final takeaway, no, Walmart did not flip a switch and go full on into Bitcoin. But this is how real adoption actually starts and actually happens. Quietly, inside familiar apps without hype. It's not a Bitcoin payment revolution. It's something more important. So crypto becoming normal for everyday people like you and me. All right, so this is all the content I prepared for today's live show. Before we go, last call to action, make sure to give us a follow on X. So my personal Twitter is jamcrypto_io. Make sure to follow Roxham TV on Twitter as well, because we have regular updates about the market, about global news, not just about Bitcoin, about geopolitics, and here comes silver, rise about $75 per ounce. So make sure to give us a follow because there's so much valuable content you wouldn't want to miss. My live show is from Monday to Friday, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little